So I did a 26-city tour of the United States last year, and it was a very interesting time to be over there. I was in North Carolina, reading the papers in the backyard with the guy who lived next door to where I was staying. It was the day that news first broke from Iraq of this united Sunni and Shia joint uprising against the US-led occupation. The same day, there was news of an African Union declaration condemning US foreign policy. And the guy next door said to me, I'll tell you this much about the United States, we are sure bringing about world unity. Because the one thing unites the entire planet, hatred of us. It's like y'all became one big nation called the rest of the world. And I said to him, well, actually, we did. In fact, we've even got our own flag. He went, oh, yeah? What is it? I said, same as yours, but on fire. I was skip diving in Kentish Town, and in this skip, I discovered a book called Marching to the Drums, From the Kabul Massacre to the Siege of Mafeking. And it was a fairly gung-ho military history full of stirring tales of colonial derring-do in the British Empire's overseas campaigns from 1860 to 1902. So you've got a chapter on Gordon of Khartoum, Omdurman, Charge the Light Brigade. And at the top of each little chapter, there was this little introductory, standalone paragraph in bold, just explaining what the British Army happened to be doing in Afghanistan, Egypt, Sudan. And because of the people who read gung-ho military histories like Marching to the Drums are really only interested in one thing: weapons. Weapons and maybe tactics, but on the whole, weapons. There was a refreshing honesty, candour and lack of hypocrisy about this little standalone introductory paragraph. With its opening in 1869, the Suez Canal became the principal waterway to Britain's most valuable overseas possession, India. It was therefore imperative for the British Army to control all traffic through the Suez Canal, which meant, first of all, crushing the indigenous independence movements of Egypt and the Sudan. Now, the Webley automatic Gatling gun was able to fire 500 rounds a minute. This proved more than a match for the scimitar swords and wicker breastplates of the Mahdi army. And this bold stating of the geopolitical facts of life strikes the modern reader with the force of revelation. For there is, in our own time, an absolute taboo among the corporate news media and the political class against mentioning anything to do with these strategic and economic reasons for war. As witness, just over a year ago, I'm listening to the Today programme on Radio 4, and there was this little phrase they kept repeating on the half hour, every half hour. The G8 has today endorsed an American plan to bring democracy to the Middle East. The G8 has today endorsed an American plan to bring democracy to the Middle East. The level of naivety necessary before you can talk about an American plan to bring democracy to the Middle East. You will not find that level of naivety anywhere outside of 1970s porno films. Gee, mister, you mean the time machine only works if I take off all my clothes? The G8 has today endorsed an American plan to bring democracy to the Middle East. And which country were they discussing that particular morning? Why, Iran, of course, which until 1953 was a secular democracy. 1951, Mohammad Mossadegh elected Prime Minister by a landslide majority on a mandate of nationalising the Anglo-Persian oil company, now known as record profit posting BP. What happens next? The Foreign Office recommend a coup d'etat. Churchill puts up $1.5 million to finance the coup. Eisenhower agrees to match this with $1 million on the sole proviso that Theodore Roosevelt's grandson and CIA Middle East Station Chief in Tehran, Kermit Roosevelt, will be point man for the coup. This is agreed, the money's transferred, and Kermit Roosevelt's first action is to spring General Fazlollah Zahedi from jail, where he is languishing on account of being a Nazi collaborator. But this is the man that Kermit Roosevelt has chosen to lead the military part of the coup. Incidentally, I hope you're all impressed by the way I'm just letting the whole Kermit angle slide. For I feel that other comedians would not have had the self-discipline to walk away from that rich storehouse of comedic possibility. but would instead have become mesmerized by a mental comedy graph whose x-axis was Middle Eastern politics and whose y-axis was children's TV programs of the 1970s, and would have attempted to plot the intersection points and asymptotes thereon. But I feel that, yes, we could have that laugh, but at a terrible psychic cost, which would be that from here to the end of the show, there would be a tinny, hollow sound to the laughter, and a collective shared sense of disappointment, of the spectrum of possibility having been brutally diminished. And we got through the show fine, like any other, and gone our separate ways, but there would have been this sense, perhaps on a pre-conscious level, but real nonetheless, of disappointment. And it would all have been traceable back to this moment, had we gone down that particular comedic pathway, which is why we shall not be taking that particular route. That said, however, be advised, I shall shortly be using the phrase puppet regime. I don't want to get overexcited or to overreact in any way. You are a sophisticated, more for audience. You will credit me that is the given socio-political terminology, the only accurate phraseology wherewith to describe how Kermit Roosevelt installs Shah Reza Pahlavi's absolute dictator of Iran, head of the notorious Savak secret police, which in 1976, he's still there, Amnesty described as responsible for the worst human rights atrocities on planet Earth. This was Britain and America bringing democracy to the Middle East in 1953 style. Yes, but that was then. This is now. Now there's an American plan, endorsed by the G8, I might add, to bring democracy to the Middle East generally, not just in Iran, but in Iraq, where the United States is building 14 permanent US military bases on Iraqi soil. What's so profound is the corporate news media's acquired naivety, the learnt ability not to see or hear the uncomfortable fact that they could be interviewing a 4-star US general while he is laying bricks on the very building site of one of these US military bases and still notice nothing wrong. There's the general going, that's right. As soon as the Iraqis have an election, we're out of here. Don't worry about that. Just wait for them to vote for us to leave. We're gone. They vote to turn this $4 billion base into a youth club. We'll just swallow that. Don't worry about that. I can't help feeling that this bit would work better if my bricklaying mime looked less like the gayest 17th century French fop playing a game of Gaylord tennis or dandy racquetball. How about you, sir? No, you. The rules of Gaylord tennis is the first player to produce a bead of perspiration loses. Lord Fauntleroy, your brow perspires, methinks. And no, that is a sequin from your mother's breast. My point. Ah, no, for points are further deducted for appearing to care about the result. Scoring is bourgeois. An American plan to bring democracy to the Middle East. And the reason they can foist such phrases upon us daily is because the British are unique among nations in their naivety about geopolitics, about the strategic and economic reasons for war, because we are unique among nations in our ignorance about our own history. How curious, for example, that the First World War is never taught in our schools as an invasion of Iraq.